Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be going through my best books of 2024 and kind of wrapping up the 2024 year with the best of the best. I have 9 books that I'm going to talk about today. I was tempted to try and make it up to 10, but to be honest I went through my red spreadsheet from last year and went through every single book and had a proper look at it and just picked out any and all that I felt were the best and ended up with this 9. And I was really tempted to like make that up to the number 10, but there were just no others that really stood out the way these 9 did. There are no others that really like levelled with these 9, so we're gonna stick with the number 9 and just go with it. So in this year's favourites we have a fantasy romance, a dark fantasy romance, a magical realism / portal fantasy type book, a fantastical graphic novel, a poetry collection and 3 non-fictions, 2 of which are on gender and 1 of which is on blindness. And to be perfectly honest, there is no particular order that I am going to talk to you about these books in. They are so totally different from each other and like completely different genres, completely different type of books. They're just not really comparable. So these are the top 9, but there's not an order to these top 9. And how I've decided to do this, which I think sounds really fun and hopefully is actually fun. Obviously there's no way to find out until I try, but I thought a fun way to talk about these books would be to read you my unfiltered thoughts from my reading journal. This is my reading journal and I fill this out for me, 100% just for me. Like, these are different to the reviews I put on Goodreads, they're different to the way that I talk about the books in the wrap-ups. This is just completely unfiltered. I write it out how I want to. Sometimes I think I put my words together quite well and I might put the exact same thing on Goodreads, but a lot of the times this is just as my thoughts flow, as I'm thinking things, as I'm remembering things, I jot them down. So I thought it'd be really fun to tell you what the book is and maybe like a little snippet of what it's about, but then to read you my personal review. Hopefully this is fun. I will of course like filter any spoilers out. Like if I've wrote something down that's spoilery, I'll probably just say like blank blank or whatever. But yeah, I think this is fun. Hopefully it's fun. Let me know down below if you think it is fun by the end of this video. If it is, I'll probably do the same again next year. If it's not, I'll come up with a different way. I just thought it's going to be better than me trying to talk about these any other way. So let's just get into it. The first book we'll talk about is the fantasy book. This is The Final Strife by Sarah L. Arethy. This is a fantastical world where in this book we have 3 different types of blood. So it just says, the Empire rules by blood. Red is the blood of the elite, of magic, of control. They are the embers. Blue is the blood of the poor, of workers, of the resistance. They are the dusters. Clear is the blood of the servants, of the crushed, of the invisible. They are the ghostings. Is that rule about to come to an end? Dun-dun-dun. It's so good. It's like such a good fun time, but like not just fun, like it's also a lot going on and it's a bit brutal and there's a lot to think about. There were so many surprises in this, so many twists and turns I did not see coming. I had a great time and I'm currently reading book 2 of this series and having equally as good a time. Okay, definitely should have figured out where all the reviews were before starting this video, but oh well, we're here now. So what did I write for The Final Strife? Well, wow, this was amazing. I can't give it the full 5 stars because the first 9/10 chapters didn't feel as good as the rest, and it wasn't until after them that I got truly invested. But once I got invested, I was sucked in. The range of emotions this book made me feel was insane. I fully hated some characters. I got so invested in the politics, trying to understand why the ruling system was set up and how the oppressions had happened. And even though I was trying to figure it out, the reveal of the blank 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 and seeing the history blank blank, I'm floored and I need to know more. Kind of linked to that, or at least their current goal is blank 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 blank. I still can't figure out the why. Why did the blank and blank blank blank, why did they pick blank 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 and why don't they want blank? Going well so far. I also found the characters in this really compelling, especially the main two, Scylla and Anor, but I also really enjoyed the parts of Hassa that we did see, and I hope she has a bigger role. I want more perspectives in book 2. I also can't wait to see Anor now she has blank blank blank, and the tension of knowing at some point it will be blank 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 blank. So many things happened and I can't wait to read more. That was my unfiltered thought of a very censored version of the Final Strife. Then the fantasy romance. This is Fear the Flames. On the back of this, the very short synopsis is vengeance is a promise signed in blood. But the princess believed the blood of her dragon flowed through her. The dragons were her kin, and there was not a line she wouldn't cross to liberate her family. So yeah, in this we basically have a princess who has hidden away and still captured in what was her kingdom are her dragons, and this is basically just a big heist story to get the dragons back, and that is basically the very majority of this book. There's maybe a tiny bit, you know, maybe 10% that is after that, but the main part of this story is all planning for the heist and figuring out how to carry it out. So what did I write for this one? We've got, this was great. I loved the heist element and loved our main two characters, and that made up the majority of the book. Oh, plus dragons, and really cool dragons too. The only downsides for me were, one, the blanks blank was very obvious, and two, the big blank and blank at the end was very lackluster and will be resolved with one conversation in the next book. I really enjoyed our main two characters meeting. The blank 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 is such a trope, but such a good one, and the way the relationship ebbed and flowed from that point was great. Due to some wording used though, I am curious if it's going to turn out to be some sort of blank blank between them, but I guess that may be revealed later on. Not only was the relationship great in this, but so were the friendships and the friendship group. If the group continues to stay together, I definitely think it will start to give blank blank vibes. What we saw of the dragons was so cool, but they were blank 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 blank. And that was my thoughts on that one. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was just really a good time. It's just like such a good classic fantasy romance with following it along, but there's also, you know, that really good plot. Like this is the perfect like fantasy romance to like fantasy elements, plot elements. For me it was pretty 50-50, in fact maybe even more plot for 8 points of this. It was maybe more 60-40. Really enjoyed it, had a great time, and yeah, definitely stands out as like a favourite of the year. I read a lot of fantasy romances and I can't think of any others that stand up to this. Then our dark fantasy romance, we have Storms of Secrets and Sorrow. So this is book 2 in the Legacy series, and this was really good. It was so good. There has been book 3 come out, but honestly book 2 is such a massive standout to me that I just can't not do book 2. Like I was so engrossed in this. I can't wait to reread this and like learn more and figure out more, and I think it's the type of book that you can reread and get like more from it again and again. Obviously I can't give you a great synopsis of this because it's book 2, so I don't want to actually read the back, but in this we have a world of legacy and fae, and there's power dynamics, it's a very dark, brutal world. There is, I think I would call it like essentially slavery going on in this. Like it's difficult to know where that line is because there's definitely parts of this that are slavery, but we are only really discovering different bits at different times. I think it's like some of it I would say is just oppression, not just oppression, like obviously that's bad in itself, but then there are certain sectors of the fae that it affects even more, and I would say is more slavery, like obviously still oppressed but slavery as well. Yeah, but also there is, you know, it's a dark fantasy romance, so there is a romantic plot going on throughout this as well. And yeah, I think I understand a lot more of what's going on in here because I did read the Lady of Darkness series first, and different marks and different things that are put on skin are much more openly explained in Lady of Darkness. So as they're described in here, I know what they actually mean due to Lady of Darkness, but in here they're not necessarily described. So I do think that's a very interesting thing about it as well. So yeah, let's see what I thought at the time. I think this one's going to be quite spoiler heavy because it is book 2. Wow, wow, wow. I just can't. This book was truly amazing. Best book of the year so far. So it's definitely still up there. The way this picked up almost straight after book 1 ended, but at the same time expanded upon book 1 so much was amazing. We see so much from our main characters, but also got so many new perspectives, which I loved. I feel like we really got to see the relationships and friendships in this book, see them develop, but also understand why different people work together. My only 2 negatives can't even really be negatives, as they definitely came across as intentional, but I did find the blank and blank confusing at times, especially trying to figure out what the differences were and who the blank described could be. And then also I'm just so frustrated with blank. As a reader, you can really see the manipulation, and even though based on blank, it's believable, but it's annoying, and I really hope blank learns from it in the next book. I did not see blank and blank coming at all, but honestly I can see it, and if blank could be a part of it too, I think blank. Okay, everything else on this side of the page is spoilery, so that's why we're gonna have to leave this one, but I wrote another like 3/4 of a page. Yeah, I really loved this. It was so good. I love Melissa K. Rorich as a author, and you know, like, her Lady of Darkness series is currently my favourite series of all time, so it's not surprising that I am loving this one. But yeah, this really stuck with me. It does so much, and yeah, like, it's definitely a favourite of the year. Then we have Mislaid in Parts Half Known. This is a portal fantasy, kind of magical realism, kind of. It's a bit of a mixture depending on what book you're in as to what you get, but this is book 9 in the Wayward Children series. In this book we follow a character that we've actually already followed once before, and this is more of a quest type book. I can't really tell you much about it, but Wayward Children, you basically, half the books you're in a boarding school with the children, half the books you're in different magical worlds with them. These children throughout their life have all discovered a door and gone through it, and this door leads them to their perfect world. Oftentimes we are in those worlds, exploring them with them at that time, and then other times we're at school, and at the school it is all children who have basically come back from those worlds and want to go back. They want to be in their perfect world, but they're not, and this school kind of like helps them along, educates them, but also is very hopeful for them. So yeah, in this one we're at the school, but it's quest based, so we're also seeing a lot. I didn't write much for this, which is surprising because it's, you know, full 5 stars, but I did write. I really enjoyed this one. I think the style of the gang going on an adventure and exploring works so good in these books, and it was so much more interesting with Blank's knowledge of how the doors / worlds work. I also liked the time jump from the last book, but still having blank, and we got to learn a lot more about blank in the school setting. I felt like this one was very hopeful and also made me excited for others to get to their worlds, but also to see how the school will change. 100% recommend. So yeah, just goodness all the way around. Absolutely love this series. I will pick it up every single year, every single time a book comes out. Normally one of these comes out once a year. It's a series of novellas. They're great. The audiobooks are also great. I really love the audiobooks for them, and yeah, fantastic time. Then we have our fantastical graphic novel, and this is Garlic and the Vampire. This is an absolutely gorgeous graphic novel. As always, I will show you the first couple of pages just so you can get an idea for the art style. I really appreciate seeing that in graphic novels, because a story can sound great, but if I don't vibe with the art style, it is often, you know, just not gonna vibe with me. Like, even if I love the idea of the story, if I don't like the art, it's not going to connect me the same. But I really love the art style in this one. It's like quite, I don't know, I don't really do art. I don't know what the right, like muted, I guess. It's like dark and muted, but it's really gorgeous colours, very autumnal colours throughout. In this we follow garlic. Garlic is a garlic. All these different vegetables were created by a witch to work in the vegetable patch, and all the vegetables are working one day and they notice that someone's living in the castle and they think it's a vampire. Garlic, being a garlic, is tasked to go and see if there is a vampire there, because garlic has an immunity. Being a garlic, and vampires don't like garlic. It's very lovely, very sweet, all about adventure, about hopefulness, about confidence, and it's just a really heartwarming, lovely story. I would highly recommend. So let's see what I wrote about it at the time. I also got to use all of my like herby, fruity stickers for this journal spread, which I very much enjoyed. This was amazing. 5 stars, absolutely loved it. It was wholesome and cute whilst also having a really atmospheric and vibey illustration style that I really enjoyed. I think it said a lot about courage and bravery, but also friendship and happiness. I'm so glad that there is another book in this series, so we'll get to spend more time with the characters. I truly didn't want it to end. And yeah, that's all true. I did also read the second book in this series this year, which is Garlic and the Witch. I enjoyed it equally as much, honestly, but this one won over it to kind of be included in the top, just because this is the one we're introduced to all the characters in. This is the one that really opens up this world, and this is the one that like I really learned that I was connecting with this story with. So yeah, definitely like takes it in terms of like personal favourite, but in terms of like 5-star ratings, they are both 5 stars. Okay, and then we have a poetry collection, and I'm really happy that this poetry collection is on here, because this is totally different to the poetry I normally read. Normally the poetry that I read is very emotive, very hard hitting, very like difficult subject matter. But no, this is A Passing On of Shells, 50 50-word poems by Simon Lamb. And these were, I mean, some of them were like more serious, but they were just fun. The illustrations were also by Chris Riddell, which is honestly the reason I picked this up. I had no idea if I was going to like Simon Lamb's poetry style, but I saw that Chris Riddell did the illustrations, and I absolutely love Chris Riddell's drawing style. So I picked it up, and basically every single poem in here, which there are 50, contains 50 words. It was such a fun time, and they're on loads of different things. On the back it says wisdom, warmth and wit. Yeah, I definitely do agree with that. It was a really good time. I'll just read you exactly what I wrote. Well. Apparently I like starting with that. I have noticed I often, if I really love a book, I've noticed throughout this that I'll often start with well, or wow. It's yeah, definitely a way I start my reviews if I'm like loving something. Well, this was amazing. It's very different to the poetry I normally like, but it was so much fun whilst also making me feel so many things. I absolutely loved the majority of the poems, like 90% plus were truly amazing. I also found the ones outside of the majority still fine and fun. They just didn't get me. I can see myself revisiting this collection many times in the future and continuing to get something from it. The addition of the illustrations from Chris Riddell were also perfect. As always, I loved his illustrations. Yeah, it was really good. I didn't tab this or like mark any of them, but I definitely know I had some favourites, and they were just like so much fun. There was one with sheep, which I can really remember the one with sheep. I can't find it right now, but it was really good. But yeah, just absolutely gorgeous how they're laid out, and like it feels like it's all been done very thoughtfully. Okay, and then time for the first of the 3 non-fiction, and the first one I'm going to tell you about is Gender. This was amazing. I don't have much to say. It doesn't really give you a synopsis of what's in here, it just tells you about the collection. But this is a collection by Tate Modern of these tiny little non-fiction books that basically take a subject, so in this one gender, and relate it to art and different artworks that you'll find throughout the different Tate Modern or Tate galleries. Absolutely amazing, so thought-provoking. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, maybe if I bend it slightly, but this is an absolutely tiny book, and I've got so many tabs in there of just different things. I really marked this one up. Honestly, this one was really just connecting. We'd gone to London for the day to see an exhibit I was really excited about, and we'd paid for that exhibit. It was like an artist I really wanted to see, but obviously the majority of the Tate is free to go around, so we'd also gone around a lot of other exhibits as well. I think we only picked 2 others just because of time, but we'd gone around, and then we went to the gift shop because of course, and I found this, and we did a bit more exploring around London that day, and we got on the train and I was still thinking about this, and I got it out and I read it from front to back. I just read it on the train, which I have like bad like travel sickness, so I don't know why I decided to do it. I honestly felt dreadful afterwards, but it was just like you know those like cartoon things where you see like the face and it's just like sucked in, like that was me with this. Let's tell you my initial thoughts about it, and I think there's a couple of quotes that I wrote down as well. This was such a good, interesting little book. It very much felt like a thought piece, and it did keep me thinking. I tabbed and underlined so much of this book. Whilst none of the contents was new to me, except some of the art being used, the way in which this put together these pieces and ideas within such a performance really captured my attention and was like nothing I'd ever read before. I would 100% recommend this, and will definitely pick up more work by the author in the future. And then I've got 2 quotes here. So we've got, "We can immortalise our defiance in this moment. Every day when we interact with the world, we hand over the camera and let others tell us where to stand, how to hold our shoulders, and what our photograph should look like. But our gender is not theirs to capture. We deserve autonomy. What they project onto it is their loss." And like, yeah. And then the other quote that I've got wrote down, and there's so many more than this, I can remember putting this together and being like, I can only pick 2. I've got space for 2, I can only pick 2, I need to like stop, but there were so many. "To talk about gender and its expression or possible queerness within the structures of only men and women is to miss out on a history and present that always existed. The first violence is the act of gendering. Then to decide there are only 2 is to kill or erase or never archive all those that said they were neither." And that one really hit me as well. That was like very thought-provoking, because it was talking about looking at like paintings, especially with people in, and like what gender they were, and talking about the fact like, you know, like non-binary people have always existed. Like there's always been people who are non-binary. Like obviously that word was never like a commonality until recently, but you know, if that word was a thing back then, if like non-binary as a word, as a descriptor as a word, there's always been people, but they haven't been captured in this art, or very little have. And the thought of just like that erasure really, there was like, yeah, it really got me thinking. And yeah, still even now this gets me thinking, so I would love to reread it at some point as well. And then we have Is Gender Fluid, and obviously this is once again a non-fiction on gender. And the reason I picked this up was because like honestly, like this was how many months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months after I'd read the previous one. I was still thinking about that book, and I saw this in a Waterstones whilst we were out shopping one day, and it looked interesting. And I feel like when you're in Waterstones and stores, you always have to look up the author online and make sure they're, you know, not an arsehole. But I was like, oh no, like, this actually looks thought-provoking. It's written by someone who, you know, seems like a decent human being. Hopefully it is. And it also captured me because it's written in a very interesting way. And I'll show you this in a moment, but here it kind of describes the way it's written. And it uses different sizes of text. So it says, if you only have half an hour to spare, just read the paragraphs set in the 2 largest font sizes and you'll get the basic overview of the subject. With an hour at your disposal, get a deeper understanding of the principles and arguments by reading all the paragraphs apart from those in the smallest font size. If you can set aside a couple of hours, you'll be able to read the entire book and get both a well-balanced overview and a detailed comprehension of individual concepts. And I've tabbed this up like I don't know what, like I've used multiple different colours and all sorts. It was a very interesting reading experience. But you can kind of see, let me just check. Okay, there is some nudity in this, so I'm just checking that I'm not showing you any nudity here. But you can see here how the different font sizes are so different on the page, and how, you know, you can read as much or as little as you have time for. And that really got me, because I was like, is this going to be a gimmick? Like, is this not going to be good because of that? But I just read it, you know, left to right, top to bottom, read it all the way through, and it was amazing. It was extremely thought-provoking. There was so much in here, so much history, I'd say. Like the history and the different cultures was definitely the things that got me the most in this, but I feel like I learned so much from it. I feel like it really was a good point. Like I will always keep this, and like my brain doesn't, you know, retain information amazingly, so I can see every couple of years rereading this and just like, yeah, refreshing my brain. I would say my only negative about this one is it came out in, what year did it come out in 2018, and it speaks to some things as a positive, like, you know, when it's come into like the more recent time, the 2010s time, I guess, speaks to things a bit more positively, and unfortunately a lot of those things have now gone backwards again, so it just felt slightly out of date in that, but the rest of it was great and amazing. So what did I actually write at the time? Well, this is great. It was so informative, and I felt like I learnt so much background knowledge from different cultures and perspectives that supported my thoughts. I will say I'm about to read the whole thing, but I have rounded this up to a 5 stars since. Like, this was 4.5 at the time, but I did decide that it was unfair, the reasoning for the 4.5, which I'm about to talk about, the reason I gave it 4.5, which I do say I think could be unfair. I may bump it up to 5 stars at some point, which I did, but this did feel that it was 4.5, but that is because it didn't feel well-rounded / complete, or like there was something missing, and I'm worried it's unfair to feel this, and I'm only feeling this due to it being a bit older and not having the last 6 years of additional info. However, it was amazing, and I will definitely stick with me for a long time. It really made me think and challenge me with its layout. So yeah, that's my thought. And I did bring it up to a 5 because I was like, yeah, just because it's missing 6 years, and unfortunately some of the positives at the end have been like kind of reversed, like that doesn't mean it's bad, and it did so much more than that for the majority of this. So yeah, that's that one. And then last but certainly not least, the final non-fiction. I just have a printout of the cover here because I have lent it out. It was a lot, so I've been lending this one out, and that is Blind Spot, Exploring and Educating on Blindness. This is one of the 404 ink books. I'll put this down and just put an image in. I've printed that out because I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, going to make a TikTok on this as well. Who knows? I didn't really get into TikTok last year, but I wanted to try, so we'll see. This felt like a good video because it looks easy to make. I've been watching other people's. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, Blind Spot. This was a non-fiction all about blindness, being blind in the world, and about how the world isn't really made for people who are blind, and it is more of an afterthought. It really made me think about accessibility and about the different things that could be done and like why they aren't already being done. So yeah, really interesting, really thought-provoking. Like honestly, one of the best non-fiction books I've ever read. In fact, it might be the best. Like it's still now, I still think about it on a regular basis when reading books, when watching TV, when just out in the world. It is a book, and the things within the book I still think about consistently. So yeah, really stuck with me. I kind of want to tell you it's the best non-fiction I've ever read, but I haven't fully made that decision, but it definitely could be. So what did I think about it? This was amazing. It did absolutely everything it said it was setting out to do, and I got even more out of this than I even expected. There were so many things to think about when reading this, and so much information to absorb. I have so many further resources from it to continue to learn more. Even though I learned so much, it did not read like a textbook. It was very informative, but in a very easy to read way. The mixture of the book using the author's own experiences, others' experience, and known achievements and scientific information and studies worked really well, and the way all of them were linked together so seamlessly made it such an enjoyable read. I would highly recommend to absolutely everyone. And I 100% stand by that. So yeah, those were the books. Those are my top books of the year. That is my 2024 best books, and it is nice to see them all here, honestly, because 2024 was not my best reading year in terms of finding favourites. Like normally it's difficult to find a top 10, normally I have to like eliminate some, and this year they were just a solid top 9, but like seeing these and knowing that I found these 9 throughout this year, it's nice. It is really nice. It just makes it seem like it was a good year. Like there was a lot of good to come from it, and I would never have wanted to miss out on these books. So yeah, it definitely makes me happier and more hopeful. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed how I did it. Let me know down below if you have a best book of the year, if you've managed to find just one, or what your best books were. Let me know if you've read any of these and agreed with me, or if you're gonna read any of these. And yeah, hopefully everyone's 2025 reading year is even better than the last. Do give the video a like if you liked it, subscribe down below if you want to see more content like this, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye!